Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lead, Sell, Grow the Human Experience podcast. Thank you guys for being here. You're going to absolutely love the show today because my guest is one awesome, tough dude. I got Matt Schneider here with me. He went from being a SWAT operator, SWAT team operator on the U.S. Marshals with the U.S. Marshals to becoming an entrepreneur, to going all the way down to zero, to building himself back up. Today, not only is he a global VP of sales and owns a part of SaaS company, but he's also the co-founder of the MDK Project and the Squire Program. And he hangs out with the baddest dudes on the planet. If you've been listening to this show, one of the guys that he's friends with is Bedros Cooley, and the other guy is Ray Care. They've both been on. So, Matt, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
You. Oh, and I didn't mention, you're also an executive coach and leadership coach. You help people kind of get to wherever they want to go as well.
Yeah, man. I developed myself and brought myself to a place where I'm able to give back in a way that I was once helped in some of the most meaningful ways you can imagine. So that's another really cool thing that I do and get a lot of fulfillment from, for sure.
That's great. Now, the shirt you have on says The Few. Is that have anything to do with the Marines or just a coincidence?
This has everything to do with Fuel Hunt, which is one of the companies that Bedros is involved with, has some ownership in. Drew and Joey, who own it, it's just super awesome dudes. But basically, their tagline or slogan is that everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt. And so they say that we are the few. Yeah, they've got a really cool line. Their stuff is awesome.
I have to check it out. It looks like a comfortable shirt. I got the red light behind me today, which is unusual because today is November 10th as we're filming this. And it is the Marine Corps birthday. It's year 247. So happy birthday to all my Marines. I got a blood stripe for all the ones who are no longer with us. Anyway, Matt, so talk to me. You get anything cool that you want to talk about during your career with the U.S. Marshals? Because I know you got some good stories. Anyone that stands out that just kind of helps amplify some of the badass stuff you did?
I was an entry operator on the SWAT team for 5 years, and there's no shortage of stories. It depends on what direction you want to go, man. But that was a very fun time that I had. I found that I think probably because of my upbringing and the way in which I was brought up and having this revolving door of men that would come and go out of my mom's life, and she's currently on her 9th marriage. We moved around a lot. We were always uprooting, and I think I just developed this ability to be able to just emotionally disconnect, right? And we talk about this in the project, and maybe we can go down this path if you'd like to. But
yeah,
taking the circumstances that shaped us as we grew up and traumas we were involved in, and flipping the script on it and making them superpowers. And one of my superpowers of my upbringing is the ability to not make emotional decisions, but be able to respond versus react. So I leveraged that in special operations and was involved in a lot of stuff. Really thrived in that, which is what elevated me up to the U.S. Marshals team, the task force there. But yeah, man, there's quite a number of stories. I wouldn't even know where to start. My wife didn't really like it. A lot of times she would learn what we were doing or where we were at just based off of what the news was reporting. But I got to be a part of a lot of cool stuff, and from hostage rescues to your barricaded armed subjects and just everything. When the police need help, they call it SWAT, right? And wow. So that's where we come into play. But our team on the U.S. Marshals was the violent fugitive apprehension team. So the worst our team would go after, and those guys never went out without a tough fight. So
entry operator.
Yeah.
Explain that. That doesn't mean you're entry level guy. That means that you're running in the door first.
Yeah. So
what's behind that door? I mean, kicking in the door is probably one of the worst things you could do in your career.
It's it definitely is very scary and hairy. And if anybody ever in those kinds of circumstances ever said they weren't afraid, like, you got to question whether or not they actually did the thing. There's fear is something that helps keep people alive. It's what's kept us alive, since our ancestors were being chased by a saber-toothed tigers. But yeah, man, it was always an element of like you're going to their terrain, and you don't know what's on the other side of the door, and sometimes you would have the element of surprise, and sometimes you'd lose it on the approach because of either surveillance cameras or neighbors that would alert them. And we did have one, speaking of, yes, for a story, we had one where we knew there was guns inside. We knew that there was this dude was a bad dude, and so part of our team dressed up as like we commandeered utility vehicles. Like we were out there, like we needed to do some utility work, and so we're in front of this Target house, and a couple of our guys are out there like with the vests and the hats, and they got these metal detectors, and we're in the Target's lawn, and we're trying to create enough commotion to where he's going to come out and say what the hell is going on, and he's not coming out. So 30 minutes later, the guys just start digging. They just start like digging random holes in the front of this dude's lawn, just because we know he knows that there's activity out there. And the rest of us, like, we're cooped up in this little van, like utility van, and we're just ready to make the approach as soon as he comes out. And so they're digging. They get about half a dozen, 3-foot by 3-foot holes spread out in this guy's lawn before he finally came out. And he was pissed. But they start pointing down the hole and whatever story, and we were able to explode out and do what we do and overwhelm them and take them up. That is a kind of a funny story that comes to mind. But yeah, man, entry, that's what we do. The breach happens, whether it's mechanical, explosive, and then team would enter and handle whatever the circumstance was inside.
All right. So something you said, you're able to not react, but what was the other word? Respond instead of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you kind of connected that to the fact that you had a revolving door of men, which probably means that you didn't have a male role model in your life. So there's a big argument for an overwhelming amount of criminals in prison and a correlation to them not having a male role model in their life. So it's interesting to me, and I'd like to learn more about it. How do you correlate the fact that you don't have a knee-jerk reaction due to the fact that you had a revolving door of men, when majority of criminals, the reason why they're in jail is probably because they had a knee-jerk reaction, right? They acted on emotion.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things to that, right? So my mom being on her 9th marriage now, that doesn't account for all the boyfriends and everybody that would come and go that she didn't marry in between. My biological father wasn't a raging alcoholic, abusive, drunk. My mom left him when I was 3 years old, pregnant with my little brother that was 7 months in her belly. And then so after she took her last beating, she scooped up me and my older brother, and we left in the middle of the night, never looked back. I have one childhood memory of my biological father, and that was a short time after my mom had taken us and left. We met him at a Target parking lot, and he gave me and my my older brother some Skittles and like a couple packets of candy, and then him and my mom went off and had a conversation. And I remember like looking, I'm 3 years old, but what I learned later on that they were talking about is that he said, if you don't charge me child support, I will write off all rights to the boys. And so later on in life, when my mom was explaining why it was that he had no involvement with us, that was the deal that they struck. And of course, she's going to take that deal. He's an abusive alcoholic, and so that was a good deal for her. But as it relates to how it shaped me, I was able to see pretty early on how the decision making in involving the wrong kind of people in the home just made for pain. It just made for constant change, this inability to ever really progress. And we were just in this, I mean, even as a child, was just seeing that our circumstances just were like this start and stop and reset. And I could see what it was doing to the family. And as I grew up, I just determined at some point, like, I'm not going to do that to my family. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to do that to eventually one day when I have kids. expose them to this. And so I determined I was going to break the cycle. And I'm happy to share that my wife and I have been together for just about 20 years, been married for 16. We have an amazing 13-year-old son, and he's never experienced and will never experience what I experienced because I learned early on, and this is how I lead my life, and the businesses I'm involved with, and the coaching that I do is choosing the easy path almost always leads to the harder circumstance later on, right? If we choose hard first, then we can pave the way for an easier future. But too many people at the first sign of adversity or struggle or things not going their way, they pull the ripcord and they take the easy path out versus go toe to toe, nose to nose with the adversity and lean into it and see themselves through it, embrace the opportunities that come for growth and development. They pull the ripcord, they do an about face, and they look for just an easier path. And that's the environment that I grew up in, and it did not serve us well. It created hard circumstances in many different ways, but I do leverage those for the betterment of myself and family, and refuse to be a victim. I refuse to be somebody who blames the way I was brought up for the ways that I would approach the world or make decisions or say, because of this, I'm not destined for success or destined for wealth. I use it completely opposite, which is that's the fire and the fuel to break the cycle and just create a completely different legacy.
How are you what type of adversity are you giving to your kid to make sure that he doesn't just have an easy path? Because I feel like I'm guilty of that, right? I mean, similarly to you, parents got divorced. My mom's been married. She's only on her third marriage, but it wasn't fun. Not like I had a good relationship there. And saying like, I don't want my kids to go through the same thing. Like you're talking and I'm like, man, this is like almost a mirror image here.
Yeah. Yeah. We do all kinds of things together for the last 5 years. Him and I and my wife, not quite 5 years, she's about 2 years into it, have been training and competing in jiu-jitsu. So we train, we train hard, we train to fight, we train to compete. There's a lot that goes into that when you're in that competitive arena within jiu-jitsu. He was up with my wife and I at 4 a.m. yesterday morning at the gym with us, up at 4 at the gym by 5:30. And he's a part of the discipline that comes with treating our mind and body right. And so he's involved in all of the conversation and action when it comes to paving the way for success. So he's a really, really good kid. And I will say that because it's been woven into the way in which we just operate, he doesn't know any different. We work out a lot together. We hike, we push ourselves. He's at a point now where, getting up yesterday at 4 a.m. as a 13-year-old, I don't know many 13-year-olds that would set their own alarm, make sure they're getting themselves up, and then have a great attitude the entire way through. But he is one of them. And so it's just, it's part of our family culture, you might say, Eric, is we really just embrace the growth that comes with adversity, like seeing ourselves through adversity, and that is part of his DNA in a lot of ways. And it helps keep me accountable as well. It helps keep my wife accountable, because we know that he's paying attention and he knows where we're at with what we preach it takes to be successful, and that we do not have a household of do as I say, not as I do. Like we do all of it together.
Oh man, that's so cool. I noticed this morning. So we had a hurricane hit this morning, and it was windy and rainy, and the kids' schools canceled. So I got up and I went into Max's room as he's already laying there. And I tell him, I'm like, dude, put your cell phone down. Let's just talk. And, we start wrestling around his bed. And then 5 minutes into it, I noticed my phone went off, and I picked up my phone and I start looking at it. And like this ding dong went in my head, like, dipshit, you just told your kid to put his phone down, and
Sure.
why'd you even bring your phone in? It was like, oh, all right, I'll put that down. My bad, buddy. Let's do it.
Yeah, sure.
So I got a chance to meet you and your kid at the Squire program in
Yeah,
California when Max and I were going through it. And
yeah,
not only were you one of the instructors there, you were also a participant because you were going through it with your kid.
right.
And I saw the bond you guys had, and he's such a good kid. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank
And
you.
one of the things I took away from you, and I've been on personal growth journey for, since 2014, probably when I started. Your values, the values are the lens that you live your life through, really left a mark on me and my
Yeah,
kid. Because when we got home, Max said, I gotta write out my values. And
yeah,
we wrote out values. And just 2 days ago, he was doing something. Um, and I'm gonna lie if I tell you what it was. I can't remember, but it was against what he wrote down his values were. I said, "What are your values?" And he pulled out his phone and read them. He's like, "Oh," and then he followed the right path. Um, can you share your values, like the lens you live through?
yeah, man, of course. I'll premise it with this. There was a point early on in 2013, 2014, and even going into 2015 when I was a young entrepreneur. And I had a business that it was a special operations training company, was embraced and welcomed and received in many ways. We had government contracts, we had contracts with local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and everything about it should have really just been um, banging on all cylinders right away. But the first couple of years, it wasn't, and there was just this agitation that I had inside because the business wasn't thriving like I knew it could. It wasn't profiting the way I knew it could and should be, and then I was losing team members who I shouldn't be losing, who were great. They were they were great instructors. They came from great backgrounds, and so I was just had this like nagging frustration. Um, I was gaining weight. My relationship with my wife and son was struggling. Like just things were not trending the right direction. What I found was, and this came by way of investing in mentorship and coaching and having somebody else with an outside perspective who could see my blind spots when I couldn't see the forest through the trees. They called out the fact that I had no North Star. I had no roadmap for myself, and I was just going through the motions on a daily basis. And because of that, there was no real strategy to my game. There was no um, there was no strategic path I was on, and I needed core values. So that put me on this path of developing core values, and it was a journey. It was an evolution of really writing them out, challenging them, revamping them, and just spending really like a couple of years just evolving the core values to where they're at today and where they've been for a while. They're non-negotiable. I don't have to take out my phone and look at them. I can recite them at any point in time because they truly are the filter that I process everything through. When it comes to the relationships that I have with people and circumstances and hobbies and habits, when it comes to somebody saying, "What do you think about this business idea?" or "What do you think about this thing?" Everything gets filtered through them, and I'll tell you, Eric, that it has literally changed the game for us. We truly live an absolute life of abundance, and in all of the really important ways, right? We have an abundance of time, we have an abundance of money, we have an abundance of success, and the impact we're having in people's lives, and it's an incredible thing, and I contribute them to having core values. So mine, I have four of them. The first one is to always burn the boats. And for those of your listeners or viewers that may not be familiar with that, it simply comes down to, back in the 1700s, there was a time where some soldiers were launching an attack, and the captain told them, burn the boat. So as they were getting off their ships and they were making their way onto land, they lit their boats on fire. And there was a very powerful message that was being sent to those soldiers as they made their way to enemy territory. And the messages were this: if they were going to get back to their land, if they were going to get back to their families, they were going to be doing it on their enemy's ships, not their own. They were sending the message to themselves and to the others that it was a victory or death mission that they were on. There was no plan B. There's no being 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You're either all in or you're not, and you need to be absolutely committed. So I established that as one of my core values because I see a lot of people approaching things where they're not fully committed. They're 1 foot in, they're 1 foot out. It's no wonder why nearly 50% of marriages end in divorce these days. There's no wonder why there's so much bankruptcy and people leaving so much opportunity and things on the table. It's because they approach it with a mindset of if this doesn't work out, then I'll do this, right? They're giving themselves an out going into it, and they don't have a victory or death mindset about it. So, that core values in everything that I do, I approach it with being all in all the time. No plan B. Victory is the only outcome I'll accept. Failure is not an option, and that serves me well. The second one is to have a high give a shit factor. So it's very evident when you walk into a place or you're evaluating somebody else's work, someone else is evaluating your work, no matter what you do, whether or not there's any kind of high give a shit factor there, right? And I place a tremendous amount of value around people who have, high attention to detail, and they care about the outcomes, and their fit and finishes there, and they understand that everything that they do, their name and brand is attached to it. When I see somebody's work, when somebody else sees my work, and the story is that that there's a high give a shit factor, that is an absolute must. I don't like people who are sloppy in the way they operate, because if they're sloppy from what I can see, they're sloppy in ways that I can't see as well, right? And all that translates to is that they don't care about the details, and they're leaving opportunity, they're leaving things on the table, and they don't particularly care about the outcomes. So the third core value that I have is to have integrity in everything. And the way that I define that as it relates to core values is that never make a promise or commitment to myself or to anyone else that I either know I can't keep or I don't intend to keep. It's one thing entirely if there's something comes up and you make a commitment, you have to pivot, change course, that stuff happens. But too many people these days, they make commitments to themselves or to others that they don't keep, and they really never were fully committed to keeping it. Or they went into it knowing they couldn't keep it, and they tell you, yeah, I'll be there, and I'll do this, I'll do that, and all the when it comes down to it, they're nowhere to be found. So those are integrity violations to me, and so I won't allow myself to make commitments to myself or to others that I cannot keep or I'm unwilling to keep, and I expect that in return from others as well. And then my last core value is to have to be always emotionally resilient and disciplined, right? And to goes back to that respond versus react, and never compromise a relationship or compromise the circumstance based on a reaction to something because of a lack of emotional resilience. And to know that there's always a silver lining that can be found in any circumstance, and that it's not a matter of if I don't get the outcome I'm seeking right out the gate, I learn from it, and then I readdress it, right? And I go right back to that burn the boats thing. But we live in a world right now where they're always triggered, and they get triggered by anything, and heaven forbid you have an opposing view, they can't even hardly stand to have a conversation about it without losing their mind, right? And there's such a lack of emotional discipline and resiliency in our country and around the world right now that we're just seeing people just that's where this cancel culture is coming from, and people just annihilating others simply because of it just having an opposing view and that they can't handle it. So those are my core values. They're non-negotiable, and they have absolutely been my North Star, the filter I put everything through, and it's served me and my family extremely well.
So you just said that the core values are your North Star?
Yeah,
Huh. When
they
you
are
said
my North Star.
when you said you realized you didn't have a North Star as the business was not in its best shape, I thought it meant like you didn't really have a goal for your life, like where you're heading.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't defined, right? So I wanted success, but how I define success and how you define success are different, right? And I
Right.
didn't have it defined for myself. I didn't have. I didn't have. Not only did I not have the actual goals clearly defined in my own mind, um, I also didn't have any kind of path to get there as well, right? So I had no way to reverse engineer where I was getting to. So the core values help me calibrate, like what, how I define success and what I want for my future, my family's future. The core values are what keeps me calibrated to stay on track and not get deviated off of that. So I don't find myself, um, compromising the goal based off of not having structure around keeping those goals.
What was the first big goal you set at that time that got you out of the hole?
So basically to get the business profitable, that was the first thing. I lost about $90,000 my first year, about the same the second year. And the accountant was very clear. He's a very nice guy, but very clear. He said, you simply will not be in business if you don't figure this out, and you're in the same place next year. When I went to go do taxes. So that my first big goal was just to stop losing money, like stop the hemorrhaging of money. And I had also, my weight had ballooned up to close to 250 pounds. And I was just doing all this the typical um, new entrepreneurial stuff, which was working the long hours, driving through the fast food joints, to grab food in between. And so it was to get the business profitable. It was to get my health back to where it needed to be, lose all the fat. It was to get more time with my family, because I was leaving before they were awake. I was coming home oftentimes after my son was in bed. And so to get more quality time with them, and to start experiencing some time freedom and money freedom, which is supposed to be what comes with being an entrepreneur.
Dude, it sounds so easy, right? Like I was out of shape, my business sucked, so I just set a goal to lose the fat and get my business back on track.
Yeah.
But that's not easy. Even to
No.
set that goal, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So, and I know probably you're not the person today who you were back then when you set that goal. I mean, you've probably grown emotionally, mentally, physically. Um, but there are people right now who hate where they are.
Yeah.
There's certain aspects of my life I'm not happy with.
Sure.
And what I noticed that when I try to set the goal, what happens is I look at that goal from my current kind of lens of where my life is right now. And that little a-hole comes in. Bedros calls him the critic. I've heard him
Yeah.
called the gremlin, and
Yeah.
says, hey, fat ass, you're not losing 50 pounds. Look at you. You like donuts too much. You can't do that. And right there, boom, the abortion of the goal and idea happens. So how do you
Yeah.
get through that part? And you're a coach. You coach people to get through
Yeah.
those things, whether it's in business and life.
Yeah.
How do you help people see that where they are now doesn't have to be where they're going to end up?
Well, I'm a product of my own product, and so that has built a tremendous amount of credibility in myself and my ability to help others. I'm 41. I've never been as old, in my life as I am right now here talking to you. But I've also never been in better shape. I have a six pack.
Yeah, you look amazing.
Yeah, I've never been in better shape. My account, has never had more money in it. The amount of money that we have at our disposal, has never been as good as it is now. My relationship with my wife and son has never been good. So, part of it comes from recognizing that, there's never a point where we arrive, right? Even though I'm in the best shape of my life now, I want to be even better shape. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. I must be better today than I was yesterday. That's the way I approach it. So it's just a life of progress. There's always room to grow. We never get to that point where we quote unquote arrive, right? So that's why we say the best is yet to come.
I hear
That's
people
good.
say this all the time. I've even say it, right? Like if you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, how do you measure being better today than you were yesterday? Is it in every field? Is it just 1% better in one thing?
I don't put a percentage around it. I do it based on stacking wins versus losses. So, you know, I give myself a report card based on the at the end of the day, as if I look back to yesterday and I think about the shit that I got done, and was it was it things that moved the needle in the right direction? Did I get my workout in? Did I keep my commitments to myself around what the nutrition and what I would eat versus not eat? People know the stuff that makes them fat. They know the stuff that they should eat and what the body wants versus what it doesn't want. And so I look at myself, did I give into the cravings? Did I give into, the temptations? Did I do the thing that I said I was going to do? And just evaluate the number of wins I stacked versus losses. And so if I can look back to yesterday and I can say, I honestly stacked more wins and losses, then I am better today than I was yesterday. If I had a day where I stacked more losses than wins, I am not better today than I was yesterday. And those days do happen. We all get, as Jason Redman, the Navy SEAL that was shot up a bunch of times and is an incredible human. He talks about getting off the X. We will all find ourselves on the X from time to time. And we just have to get off of it. So as a general rule, it's looking to the previous day and evaluating the wins versus losses, because when I have the days that add up to a week and I've got a week of more wins and losses, that's a winning week. When I can do that for a month, that's a winning month. And then it just goes on, right? So I've been on this very intentional journey for a number of years now, and I can legitimately and authentically tell you that I just have more days and weeks and months of winning because of the intentionality I put around it. And so going back to your question, as far as like what I tell my clients and how I live myself that have gotten me and my family where we're at is, part one is just knowing what to do. There's a lot of things that people, they don't know how to get to point A to point B, right? They know they want better. Maybe even they have it more clearly defined in their head as far as what better looks like and what those goals are. But they don't know how to get there. That is a real thing, right? One of the reasons why they hire you and I and these others as coaches is because they need help understanding what it is they should be doing or should not be doing, and be given the guidance and even the roadmap to be able to know what to do. Once people know what to do, then it just comes down to discipline. Discipline, once you know what to do, is the bridge between what somebody has and what somebody wants. And the question just becomes, can somebody exercise the discipline and the consistency over time to get to that place that they want to be? Too many people, what they want and what they have are not the same because they lack the discipline to get there. Sometimes it's a matter they don't know what to do. They just need to invest in themselves. They need to invest in the books. They need to invest in putting themselves in closer proximity to other people who represent the kind of success or progress or lifestyle that they want. And they need to go to those places. They need to earn those people's trust and get into those networks. They need to invest in mentorship or coaching. So start by just getting into closer proximity, making those investments, learn what you need to do, and then stop making excuses. Stop making promises and commitments to yourself and that you don't keep because you lack discipline. And that's the secret sauce behind it. And it's not even very secret at all or complex to understand.
Yeah. I would push back when people don't know what to do. I think people know exactly what to do. It's the hard stuff. It's simple. It's just not easy. It is.
Yeah.
hitting the gym. It is eating healthy. Like today, I got up and I'm like, oh, it's Marine Corps birthday. I can eat a bagel with eggs and some meat I fried up. I never eat
Yeah.
breakfast. Today I gave
Yeah.
myself a little out, right? I'd say that's not a win for me this morning, right? Because I don't feel good today. I didn't go to the gym this morning because of the rain. Like this morning has
Yeah.
not been but I did get to stay in bed, talk to my wife a little bit extra.
Mhm.
We had a pretty cool training that we did together yesterday. She joined my company. And it was just cool, just reflecting on that. So no regrets today.
Yeah.
Um,
And what I mean by the don't know what to do is, and I guess there's clearly, like, when it comes to health, like, that's not a very elusive thing for people. Most people, they know exactly what to do and eat, not do, and those kinds of things. I do coaching in business, so business and entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of success habits and organizational structure and things that other successful business owners and entrepreneurs have done that their common sense are just not common knowledge. And whether it's team meetings or goal setting or certain structure, light bulb comes on right away, and they're like, I've been in business for almost 10 years and I never thought to do that. I didn't understand the significance or power, and they go and do it and they come back, they're like, holy shit, that made a huge difference. How have I not been doing this whole time? They just didn't. Common sense is just not common knowledge in
is
some
there one
some
thing that stands out as you're thinking about that? Like, when's the last time that happened? What was that thing?
that's happened for me,
Yeah, like
or
for
in
when you're
coaching.
coaching a business owner, like what's that one thing that you told them to do that it's common sense, they just didn't know to do it?
Dude, I mean, it's interesting how much low hanging fruit is there, but I also recognize it because I was that guy. When you're in the thick of it and you're in that daily grind, it is really tough to see the forest through the trees.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think maybe it was even yesterday or something. I've got a doctor on my books, and he's owned his practice for a number of years, but he hasn't been meeting with his team on a like individually ever really. He'll do like the one-on-one, just kind of like the, hey, how are you doing, but no like real sit down strategic conversations, where he's purposely gone down the path of saying, like, what is it that you want? Like, what do you want? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And let's talk about how the company can help you get there. And this contract that needs to be entered into between the employee and the business, right? And structuring a conversation around educating them on the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur, and how an entrepreneur is somebody who treats the business as if it is their own, even though it's not their own, and how an entrepreneur does a variety of different things that I explain to them, and they're able to then explain to the employee. And on the other side of this conversation is this completely new sense of ownership that the person has within the business, and this new sense of understanding that the employer will help them get there if they help them get to a more profitable place, and that an entrepreneur's job is to help the company become more profitable. Like, that is their job. If they're going to be an asset, not a liability, that is their job. But that doesn't mean it comes at the cost of their own livelihood and prosperity not being leveled up with the company, right? So it's I had couple weeks ago, because I meet with my clients in 2-week cadences, had that, came back, and he said, man, I met with my team and they are fired up. And he said they left with this level of excitement I haven't seen in a long time. And now they're he's like, I see already how they are showing up differently with this understanding that they are now in the driver's seat professionally of what their future can look like, and that they have this new belief that I'm going to help them get there, and that we together we're going to help them achieve their personal and professional goals. It's a different way to run a company. It's a different way to work within a company, but it's truly a recipe for success when entrepreneurs figure that out and they get it implemented, and they get the buy-in and the team cohesion and all the stuff that comes with it, to make a company much more profitable.
What a powerful force that is when all your employees are working towards making the company profitable because they know the company's best interest is helping them achieve what they want personally.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
huge. That's
Yeah.
kudos. That is amazing. All right, talk to us about the MDK project.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I just got the email. Before it was like, oh man, it's 15 grand. I'm not gonna do that. Bam, Pedro sends an email. Good news.
Hmm.
It's 7 grand now. I think they
Hmm.
bought their own land, don't have to
Hmm.
pay the expenses. The cost came down, so he brought the price down. Awesome. My inner bitch is still like, hey,
Yeah.
you can't go do that 75 hours.
Hmm. Yeah, man, the project's incredible. We're just over 3 years into it. We just wrapped up our 15th class, have about 200 graduates at this point, and in short, you would think of it as a 75 hours of a blend of Navy SEAL Hell Week that Ray Care, former Navy SEAL, really helped craft, with a bunch of like business mastery and financial mastery. And it is a very intense program. We have about 40 to 50% washout rate per class. So about 40-50% of people that sign up for the class that want to finish it don't finish it because it's too intense for them. The goal is that we bring men in that they want more out of life. They know they're capable of more. They know that they have this ability to create more, achieve more, earn more, donate more, accomplish more, but they're just not, right? And they're just kind of like in this place where they need something to thrust them out of this rut of life that they're in. And it could be that they are experiencing challenges within their marriage or within their finances or within their businesses. We've got guys anywhere from Fortune 500 executives all the way down to your stay home dads and everything in between. But dude, it's incredible. It's extremely challenging. It's extremely rewarding. It's designed to be able to have guys smash through the self-limiting beliefs that they have, to learn how to silence that inner critic, and to be able to establish a belief system in themselves and their ability to have anything, do anything, accomplish anything, achieve anything, in ways that they haven't felt in many cases in their entire life. And so on the other side of it, when they graduate, not only do they enter a lifelong brotherhood of other what we call savage servants and guys that are absolutely on this war path of dominating life and squeezing every ounce of juice of this life that they can, but they go home a completely different man, a completely different husband, completely different father, that then begins to lead and guide their families in ways that they never have before, which then starts to create this really amazing ripple effect. And this truly has like a generational impact for the ones that graduated.
Man, what a great group to be a part of. So how do they, first of all, what do you see the difference is between the people who are staying and who are dropping out?
Um, the virtually everybody underestimates it. They see the videos, they see the 60-second highlight reels, and they're like, oh, that looked tough, but I could do it. So um, you know they don't properly prepare coming into it. We have a whole workout routine and weekly calls and groups that they get put into. Like there's a 90-day workup just to prepare for it. Some people they treat it as if it is going to be the toughest mentally and physically challenging thing they've ever done in their life, and so they prepare accordingly. Others they make excuses and they come in out of shape, they come in unprepared. And just with anything in life, if you go into anything significant unprepared, the outcome is likely not going to be very favorable. So, one of the big differences is that the level of preparation coming into it. The other one is just mindset. They're not being asked to do anything they're not capable of doing. it's just a matter of whether or not they're willing to do the thing, and they're willing to embrace all of the manufactured adversity, and understand that there's a method behind the madness, and to trust the process and not give up on themselves before they get to that 75th hour.
What do you ever talk to the folks who drop out?
Yeah, we'll check in on them.
What are those conversations like?
A lot of times regret. A lot of times they the overwhelming kind of message we get is that they just gave into the inner bitch, like that internal voice that said, why am I doing this? Why am I letting them talk to me like this? Why am I subjecting myself to this? I could, I don't have to do this. And they give into that inner voice. They give into that voice that wants them to be mediocre, that wants them to take the easy path, and they regret that, because they immediately after they ring the bell and leave, they're no longer tired, they're no longer hungry, they're no longer, they're just, because they are immediately excused, and they realize they had more in the tank. They realize that they gave it.
They got to go home and look at their kids and look at their wives and say, I quit.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's unfortunate. We do have guys come back. We have, at this point, we probably have, I would say, maybe 10 or so guys that didn't finish what they started. They paid the entry fee to come back and finish what they initially started, and they've graduated. And if you were to ask any one of these 200 graduates, they would tell you that they would pay the entry fee 10, 20 times over again, based on the value that they received, on not just within the program itself, but on the other side. And so, we do have from time to time guys that come back, and they're really happy that they did. But it's incredible to see the growth, and it's incredible the letters we get from the wives, just the successes that we see these guys. I mean, it's amazing, Eric, when men who are born and have the DNA to lead and create and provide, and just to dominate in the way, like, instinctually we feel, when they learn how to do that in a way that they're no longer giving into that inner voice, that inner critic, and they're getting in their own way. It's amazing to see what they're accomplishing, and they don't even recognize the old guy anymore. Our oldest graduate's 60. Speaking of old guys, our youngest is 18. And so it's a pretty wide spectrum of people have come through and made it to the other side.
That's freaking awesome. I'm gonna do it. I know I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
It's just hard, man. It's just hard.
It's so freaking hard.
People, human nature, like, we're a living organism, right? And so our, the living organism side of us wants to preserve energy, and people will do more to seek pleasure, or will do more to avoid pain than to seek pleasure, right? So when people look at this and they think about it, and they're like, man, that sounds painful. They're gonna a lot of guys will come up with all kinds of reasons to avoid it. But I'll tell you that our Greek ancestors, they coined the phrase that, and this was in Latin, but on the other side of adversity is where passion is found. On the other side of pain is where passion is found. And so, thousands of years ago, our ancestors figured out that it's through overcoming adversity and pain, that is where you find passion. And wouldn't that be something if more people lived a life of passion?
Oh, yeah. But adversity is a sliding scale too, right? I mean, like, this 75-hour thing is like all the way probably towards the end of that scale. Anyway, that's my inner critic talking. I'm just gonna shut up and tell him to go away.
It is. I mean, it's the way that we're able to create guys who are so massively proud of themselves and have so much faith in themselves in such a short period of time, right? In 75 hours, to basically bring in and spit out a completely different human that's going to go out and attack the rest of their life on this floating rock in the middle of the universe, with such tenacity and to, like, leave nothing on the table. it's got to be on that side. The diversity has got to be to that level, because 75 hours is obviously not a lot of time. And so we're 15 classes in, and it's a really dialed in program. The proof is in the pudding when you look at these 200 guys and what they're doing, and the ways they're leading their homes, and what their circumstances look like.
Well, I just connect with what you guys are doing so much. It's like, they tell you about being in a room where you're surrounded by people who are ahead of you, who are better than you, who can help you grow. Anytime I see you or Bedros or Ray, it's like, yeah, these are the guys that will, there's always an aha moment. Like, I mean, I wake up at 3:15 in the morning. I take my time to look at the day. I journal, I meditate, I go work out. But I didn't have values. I don't have a North Star. I don't reflect at the end of the day. So great, I do this, but then there's no great. And every single time I pick up something new. Like, what's weird is, about 25 minutes ago, as you're talking, I'm like, fuck, I want to go run. Like right now, it's raining outside. I want to go for a run. And I hate running. Anyway, but that's kind of like what guys like you make me want to do. Just be a little bit better. And that's such an important thing. Let me ask you before I let you go. Somebody who's stuck right now, stuck in business, not happy with how they're seeing themselves in the mirror, like don't have the relationship with their wife, not happy with the way they are with their kids, just they're in this kind of spiral where it's almost feels as if it's impossible to get out of this thing. How do you tell them, like, what's the one step or one thing that they could do today that's going to help them take a step in the right direction?
It would start by recognizing that they always, under every and all circumstances, maintain the power and control to change their circumstances. If there's somebody who's unhappy with their current circumstance and would like to have that change and to see that change, they have the power and control to change it. There are two things that we always possess at all times that nobody else can control but ourselves, and that is our attitude and our effort. So, if somebody truly is in a place where they want to get from where they're at to a different place, then don't wait for some knight on a white horse to come galloping in to save you, your family, your finances, your health. Like, you've got to do the work. You own it. And so the attitude and the effort, the all that matters at the end of the day is just the outcomes and results, right? Nobody can ever argue with outcomes and results. So get off of the bleachers in your life. Don't be a spectator of your own life. Don't be standing on the sidelines as a passive participant watching other people play the game of life and you getting a play or two in, but otherwise it's other people out there really doing the work, and other people progressing and moving the ball down the field. Like, get in there, suit up, get on the field, get the ball, and start running it yourself, right? Grab the pen from anybody else that's writing the chapters of your life, and start writing it for yourself. Like, if there's anybody sitting in the driver's seat of your own life, kick them the hell out and get in the driver's seat of your own life. And don't ever blame other people for your circumstances, because the moment that you're blaming others, all you're doing is you're giving other people the power, right? You're taking the easy path by saying, it's not my fault that it looks like this. It's my boss's fault because he didn't give me the raise, or it's my neighbor's fault, or it's my wife's fault, or whatever. You take ownership. Jocko Willink, you wrote that great book, Extreme Ownership. Like, take ownership of what's going on, and know that if you are willing to get on the field, if you're willing to get in the driver's seat, to grab the pen, and know that you always maintain the power and control to change the circumstances, then just do the work and do the thing over time, and be consistent with it. And then you'll begin to enjoy the outcomes and the results of that. If you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to commit to what it takes to actually change the circumstances, that is your decision. And you own the outcomes and the results as a result, as a result. And so that's where I would start.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. Thank you, Matt. That was awesome, man. And the company where you are part owner, that is called Fit Tracker Pro or Fit Pro Tracker?
Fit Pro Tracker. Yeah, the software company. Yeah, if any gym owners, anybody that in that gym space, boutique, big box gyms, it's a software with CRM, billing, communications, apps, the whole thing. It's a full suite.
Nice. Awesome. Matt, thanks for being here. How can people get a hold of you?
Dude, social media. I'm active on social. Instagram is just Matt Schneider _official. Slide into the DMs if there's anything I could do for you. You have any questions, if it's on the coaching side. All the links to the project, Squire, coaching, all of it can be found in the link on the social. So just reach out. Happy to connect and see if I can be of service.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's the MDK Project. It stands for Modern Day Night. You can't get a more badass name than that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Super appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Have a good one, brother.
You too.